Hello, this video is an advanced guide to Flight of Nova orbital stations. And like my last video, I'm calling it an advanced guide not because it requires you to have significant knowledge in advance, but because it's talking about a subject that's really just for fun, at least at the moment, and that is going to high altitude stations. There's nothing in the game that requires you to do that, but it is an option, and I personally think it is one of the funnest things you can do in Flight of Nova. I'm also going to take the opportunity to talk about launching from non-equatorial land bases. Admittedly, not that far off the equator. We're only 3 degrees south, but it does require some differences from the purely equatorial launches that the game missions have you do. So I've chosen Station Sullen because it's at 1,000 kilometers, and also because at the moment I think it's the coolest looking station. Well, you'll see it when we get up close if you haven't seen it before. And when picking a launch window, at the moment the game doesn't let you calculate that. It just says it's not yet compatible. But what I like to do is to just manually time accelerate until the longitude of the station matches your current longitude, and that the window differs based on the station altitude. I'll put those in the description, but they're just my rules of thumb based on trial and error mostly. It also depends on the ship you're flying and your launch profile. But as I said, for 1,000 kilometer stations, I tend to launch when it is basically directly overhead, or since we're not on the equator, at the same longitude. So that means I'm not looking at the range, I'm looking at the longitude. I'm waiting for it to be 24. And we're already facing directly east, but we're south of the equator, so we need to launch a little bit north. Because what we want to do is travel north to reach the equator, and then do a plane change to be equatorial. So this launch is pretty normal, other than the fact that we're not launching directly east. We're launching a little bit north of east. Going to do our standard gravity turn. And we want to reach an apoapsis of about 1,000 kilometers. So we'll just raise our apoapsis to that. Now the first thing that's going to happen as we start coasting upwards is that we'll reach the equator and we'll need to change our orbital plane. Properly, what we should do is burn towards what's called the normal or anti-normal vectors. But the game doesn't provide that to us, and it also doesn't provide us with a numerical heading. So it's really easier to just burn directly south or directly north. Since we're heading north, we want to burn south to change our inclination. And since we had such a high inclination, I wanted to get a bit of a head start there on reducing it. But the goal is to cause the inclination number and the latitude number to both be 0 at about the same time. And that's good enough. So what's happened now is that we're close enough to the station that we can basically start to get an idea of when or how to start course correcting. And I do that by just putting the bore sight indicator over the station and see which way it's moving. There's no precise calculations or scientific method needed here. It's just as simple as checking which way it's moving relative to you and then making it not move that way anymore. So I'm going to burn in such a way that it stops moving in my field of view. And there we go, it sort of looks visually like it's fine. If you look at our orbital parameters, they still look okay. That doesn't look too bad. And we can just repeat that process. Nope, it's still moving away from us. So let's just do that again. And really, it's as simple as that. You know, doing this is a lot easier than you might think. Because these ships have so much delta V, you really don't have to do a lot of complicated planning or calculations on the ground in order to get to these stations quickly. You pretty much just have to find a reference point and check to see if the station is moving relative to it. You can see we're actually still not perfect, so let's just get a little bit more speed this way. And if you're wondering, yes, this is very fuel inefficient. but in terms of time, it's much more respectful of your time as a player to basically just burn this way to the station. Now the other thing is that you can see we're moving at a little bit over 1 kilometer per second towards the station right now, just by looking at the distance. And that's fine, but it means that it's still going to take about 10 minutes to get there. And we still have a lot of fuel left, as you can see, almost 60%, so we can accelerate towards the station. Until that number is higher. You can actually get this up around 6 or 7 kilometers per second if you want to really go for it. But for this video, I don't think I'll be that crazy. And now that we've done that, we have to course correct again. So it's moving to the right a bit in our field of view, so we can just try and find a suitable static point, like the side of the ship. Uh-oh. And just try to make it stop relative to that point, so that we know we're heading directly towards the station. That looks pretty good to me right now. Maybe a little bit high. Yeah. That looks about right. Good enough anyway. So now let's reduce some of that speed relative to the station. That should be safe to turn around now. Whoopsie. No, overshot for sure. That wasn't really ideal, but we can fix it. And from here, it's just a normal station intercept. Yes, we did use up quite a bit of fuel to do it, but we're still going to be well above 20%. So since you've got the fuel in the Delta V, why not use it? And that way you don't have to spend an hour coasting up to the station. That's the way I feel anyway. Of course, if you want to have a chill, relaxing time listening to the music and enjoying the outer space atmosphere, you can do that. That's one of the great things about this game, is you can play it the way you like. But I just wanted to get up to Sullen and show it off. So our relative velocity is about 900 meters per second. So I'm going to start slowing down at about 9 kilometers. Alright. Slow down. See, now here is one of the problems with the displays in the game, which is that they aren't a true relative velocity vector. Yeah, let's actually just turn around. It shows your closing speed. It doesn't calculate the velocity change necessary to cancel your speed relative to the target. It would be nice if it did that, but no big deal. There's the station.
Gear rotation.
And if you haven't seen this station before, hopefully you can see why I wanted to come here. I think this is a pretty cool place to visit. It looks like a large, maybe interplanetary bulk carrier. Those cargo containers on the front of it are the same as the large ones on the flying barges, the sky carriers. And also I believe that there's one of these crashed next to one of the land bases that you do missions at. Which I think is a bit of secret lore that we don't know what it means yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out. So anyway, let's go ahead and dock here.
Docking Bay 1.
There we go. My goal with this video was mostly to show that it's a lot easier to do this than you might think. You really don't have to have a whole lot of planning in advance. You can just decide to take off and go launch to a station and have fun. If you watched this video and decided to go do this for the first time, let me know. Hope it was helpful, and have fun.